Alexander Litvinenko was born in 1962 in Voronezh, Russia. In 1980, he joined a military unit of the Soviet Union's Interior Ministry and reportedly became a KGB member 8 years later. He rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel as the KGB transitioned into the FSB during the 1990s. Vladimir Putin was his ultimate superior at the FSB, but they reportedly had a falling out over issues of corruption within the agency. In 1998, Litvinenko was arrested on charges of abusing his office after he revealed an alleged plot to assassinate Boris Berezovsky, a Russian tycoon who was later found dead in his home in Ascot in March 2013. He spent 9 months in a remand centre before being acquitted. After leaving the service, Litvinenko authored a book titled Blowing Up Russia: Terror from Within. In this book, he claimed that FSB agents were responsible for the bombings of apartment buildings in Moscow and 2 other cities in 1999, which paved the way for the Second Chechen War and contributed to Vladimir Putin's rise to power. He also accused Russian secret services of orchestrating the Moscow theatre hostage crisis through a Chechen agent provocateur and claimed they were behind the 1999 Armenian parliament shooting. Additionally, Litvinenko asserted that al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri was under FSB control during his visit to Russia in 1997. In 2000, Litvinenko fled to the UK, citing persecution, and was granted asylum. He later obtained British citizenship in 2006. After arriving in London, he continued to support exiled Russian oligarch Boris Berezovsky in his media campaign against the Russian government and accused Putin in 2006 of ordering the assassination of Anna Politkovskaya, a Russian journalist and human rights activist. On November 1, 2006, Alexander Litvinenko met 2 former Russian KGB officers, Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun, at the Pine Bar of the Millennium Hotel in London. Lugovoy had previously served as a bodyguard for Russian ex-Prime Minister Yegor Gaidar and later worked as the chief of security for the Russian TV channel ORT. Litvinenko considered both men to be business contacts and even friends. That same day, Litvinenko had lunch at Itsu, a sushi restaurant in Piccadilly, London, with Italian officer and nuclear expert Mario Scaramella. During their meeting, Litvinenko made allegations regarding Romano Prodi's connections to the KGB. Scaramella was involved with the Mitrokhin Commission, which investigated KGB infiltration in Italian politics, and he claimed to possess information about the death of journalist Anna Politkovskaya. He also gave Litvinenko documents that supposedly related to her fate. After his meetings that day, Litvinenko returned home and began to feel unwell. He started to vomit and later developed bloody diarrhea. At one point, he was unable to walk without assistance, and as the pain intensified, he asked his wife, Marina, to call an ambulance. On November 3, 2006, Litvinenko, using the pseudonym Edwin Carter, was admitted to Barnet Hospital in North London, where he was initially treated for gastroenteritis. As his condition worsened, he revealed his true identity to the doctors and claimed he had been poisoned. On November 17th, he was transferred to University College Hospital in central London for intensive care. Over the following days, his condition continued to deteriorate as doctors struggled to determine the cause of his illness. Surrounded by friends, Litvinenko became increasingly weak and drifted in and out of consciousness. On his deathbed, he told detectives that he believed President Putin had directly ordered his assassination. 3 days before his death, photographs of Litvinenko were taken and released to the public. He requested this, saying, "I want the world to see what they did to me." On November 20th, as Litvinenko's condition deteriorated, he was moved to intensive care. His blood and urine samples were sent to the UK's atomic weapons establishment and tested for radioactive poison using gamma spectroscopy. Although no significant gamma rays were detected initially, a small spike was observed at an energy level of 803 kilo-electron volts, just above the background radiation level. The BBC later reported that a scientist who had previously worked on Britain's early atomic bomb programme overheard a discussion about this spike and recognised it as the gamma-ray signal from the radioactive decay of polonium-210, a key component in early nuclear bombs. Unlike some other sources of radiation, polonium-210 emits very little gamma radiation, but releases large amounts of alpha particles, which are more difficult to detect with standard radiation detectors like Geiger counters. That explained why tests conducted by doctors and Scotland Yard at the hospital using Geiger counters returned negative results. Both gamma rays and alpha particles are classified as ionising radiation, which can damage living tissue. An alpha-emitting substance can cause significant harm only if ingested or inhaled, acting on cells like a short-range weapon. Hours before his death, Litvinenko was tested for alpha emitters using specialised equipment. On the evening of November 22nd, shortly before his death, Litvinenko's doctors were informed that the poison was likely polonium-210. Further tests performed on a larger urine sample using spectroscopy designed to detect alpha particles confirmed this. Late on November 22nd, Litvinenko's heart failed and he died the following day. His official time of death was 9:21 p.m. at University College Hospital in London. In his final statement, he said, "I would like to thank many people, my doctors, nurses and hospital staff who are doing all they can for me, the British police who are pursuing my case with rigour and professionalism and are watching over me and my family. I would like to thank the British government for taking me under their care. I am honoured to be a British citizen. I would like to thank the British public for their messages of support and for the interest they have shown in my plight. I thank my wife, Marina, who has stood by me. My love for her and our son knows no bounds, but as I lie here I can distinctly hear the beating of wings of the angel of death. I may be able to give him the slip, but I have to say my legs do not run as fast as I would like. I think therefore that this may be the time to say one or two things to the person responsible for my present condition. You may succeed in silencing me, but that silence comes at a price. You have shown yourself to be as barbaric and ruthless as your most hostile critics have claimed. You have shown yourself to have no respect for life, liberty, or any civilized value. You have shown yourself to be unworthy of your office, to be unworthy of the trust of civilized men and women. You may succeed in silencing one man, but the howl of protest from around the world will reverberate, Mr. Putin, in your ears for the rest of your life. May God forgive you for what you have done, not only to me, but to beloved Russia and its people." Litvinenko's autopsy took place on December 1st, and it was determined that he had ingested polonium-210, a poisonous radioactive isotope. His funeral occurred on December 7th at the London Central Mosque. The radioactive poison inside Litvinenko's body was so strong he was buried in a lead-lined coffin at Highgate Cemetery in North London. Shortly after his death, the UK's Health Protection Agency announced that tests had confirmed significant amounts of the radionuclide polonium-210 in Alexander Litvinenko's body. This finding suggested that individuals who had come into contact with him may also have been exposed to radiation. They issued a public health alert in London and advised those who had been in the same locations as Litvinenko on November 1st, 2006 to contact NHS Direct. This included a sushi restaurant and a hotel bar. Mario Scaramella, who dined with Litvinenko at a restaurant called Itsu, was informed that Litvinenko's body contained 5 times the lethal dose of polonium-210. However, tests conducted on the table where he sat with Litvinenko on November 1st revealed no radioactive contamination, and Scaramella himself showed no signs of contamination, effectively ruling him out as a suspect. The investigation into Alexander Litvinenko's death was conducted by the Metropolitan Police Service's Terrorism Unit in Greater London, who confirmed that they were treating his death as a murder. They also received assistance from the FBI, who had expertise in radioactive weapons. CCTV footage was reviewed, confirming Litvinenko's movements prior to falling ill, and it uncovered a disturbing trail of contamination, with traces of polonium-210 found at over 40 locations in and around London. Detectives uncovered 3 separate trails of polonium on different dates, confirming that Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun poisoned Litvinenko. They attempted twice unsuccessfully before finally succeeding. The first attempt occurred on October 16, 2006, when Lugovoy and Kovtun met Litvinenko in London. They tried to poison him at the office of Erinis International, a security company located at 25 Grosvenor Street in Mayfair. Following this, they had lunch with him at the Itsu sushi restaurant in Piccadilly Circus. During this initial attempt, the amount of polonium ingested by Litvinenko was significantly lower than the lethal dose, allowing him to survive. However, he did report feeling unwell afterward. It appeared that Lugovoy and Kovtun did not fully understand that they were handling a radioactive poison, and when the containers leaked, they stored them in their hotel rooms and used ordinary towels to clean it up, eventually disposing of the poison down the bathroom sink. On October 17th, possibly realising they had contaminated their rooms, they checked out early, moved to a different hotel, and left London the following day. On October 25th, another assassination attempt failed when Lugovoy returned to London. He once again left radioactive traces in his hotel, this time at the Sheraton Park Lane located at 58 Grosvenor Street. He met Litvinenko in the hotel's tea room. However, he did not administer the poison during this encounter, likely due to concerns about being detected by security cameras in the room. Once again, he disposed of the poison down the bathroom sink in his hotel room before leaving London shortly afterward. On November 1st, at approximately 5 p.m, the third attempt to poison Alexander Litvinenko took place at the Millennium Hotel in Grosvenor Square, where Litvinenko had consumed green tea, laced with polonium-210. At the hotel, significant amounts of radioactivity were detected in the 4th floor room and in a cup at the hotel's Pine Bar. After visiting the bar, Litvinenko went to Boris Berezovsky's office, where he used a fax machine that later showed signs of radioactive contamination. At 6 p.m, Ahmed Zakayev picked up Litvinenko and drove him home to Muswell Hill. The level of radioactivity left in his car was so high that it rendered the vehicle unusable. Everything Litvinenko touched at home over the next 3 days became contaminated, and his family could not safely return to their house for over 6 months afterward. It was determined that the patterns and levels of radioactivity suggested that Litvinenko ingested polonium, whereas Lugovoy and Kovtun only handled it. Traces linked to Kovtun were found in Hamburg, Germany, left on his route to London on October 28th. Further traces were discovered on various passenger jets travelling from Moscow to Heathrow on October 25th and 31st, as well as on flights from Heathrow to Moscow on October 28th and November 3rd. British Airways later released a list of 221 flights involving contaminated aircraft, impacting around 33,000 passengers. They advised those potentially affected to contact the UK Department of Health for assistance. Thankfully, no one other than Alexander Litvinenko was seriously affected by the contamination. On December 1st, 2006, British authorities reported that scientists at the atomic weapons establishment had traced the source of polonium to a nuclear power plant in Russia, and a few days later, Britain demanded the right to speak with at least 5 Russians implicated in Litvinenko's death. In response, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that Moscow was willing to answer concrete questions. On May 28, 2007, the British Foreign Office requested the extradition of Andrei Lugovoy from Russia to face charges in the murder of Alexander Litvinenko. However, the Russian General Prosecutor's Office rejected the request, citing Article 61 of the Russian Constitution, which prohibits extraditing citizens, and claimed that Britain had not provided enough evidence. In January 2016, a UK inquiry led by Sir Robert Owen concluded that Andrei Lugovoy and Dmitry Kovtun were responsible for Alexander Litvinenko's poisoning, likely acting under the direction of the FSB with approval from Nikolai Patrushev and President Vladimir Putin. In September 2021, the European Court of Human Rights also determined that Russia was responsible for Litvinenko's killing, which constituted a violation of Article 2 of the European Convention on Human Rights, a treaty to which Russia has adhered since 1998. The European Court of Human Rights found clear evidence that Lugovoy and Kovtun assassinated Mr. Litvinenko. The court stated that they acted as agents of the Russian state. It criticised Russia for not properly investigating the murder or punishing those responsible, and it noted Russia's refusal to share documents from the investigation. The court also pointed out how complicated the operation was, involving the use of a rare poison and travel arrangements for the assassins, which showed that Mr. Litvinenko was the intended target. The court ruled that Russia must pay Litvinenko's widow €100,000 for non-pecuniary damages and €22,500 for costs and expenses. Alexander Litvinenko died the most horrific death, drawn out over 23 days. He knew he was dying and knew there was no known antidote for polonium-210 ingestion, something that had never been seen before. Over those 23 days, he experienced a variety of symptoms, starting with severe abdominal pain, vomiting and diarrhea. Within days, he developed thrombocytopenia and neutropenia, which are characterized by low platelet and white blood cell counts, followed by decreased consciousness, alopecia, hair loss, and mucositis, inflammation of the mucous membranes. Finally, he suffered multiple cardiac arrests, which ultimately led to his death. What a horrendous way to die.